Welcome back to the Dersh Show. This is a special edition of the Dersh Show. I've gotten a lot of emails asking me about my office and my house and all the tchotchkes and documents and pictures that I have surrounding me. And so I decided that in this special show, I'm going to give you a intimate inside glimpse at my surrounding. Start with my office, and then we're going to go to a place where I have some other documents and material, and we'll end up in a special place, which I'll tell you about when we get there. So what we're going to begin with is the wall behind me, where you see it. Sometimes it's had different things over the years. Start obviously with the most important thing, and that is the moment the Brooklyn Dodgers won the 1955 World Series. It was my first year in college. I had sworn to give up baseball to become a student, but of course I couldn't do that. And this photograph of the moment of the victory, with Roy Campanella hugging the pitcher and Johnny Padres, and this picture is signed by Duke Snider, Carl Furillo, Pee Wee Reese, Sandy Koufax, Carl Erskine, Johnny Padres, and obviously Roy Campanella. What goes with that, this is the actual championship ring of the 1955 Dodgers. It was owned by Don Zimmer, who at the time was a second baseman. And he started Game 7 because Jackie Robinson was slightly injured. But they put Jackie Robinson in at the last inning because they wanted him to be on the diamond when the Dodgers won the World Series. All right, then we move. This is interesting. This is dated Nuremberg, 1490. And we're talking about shortly after the printing press is invented. And what do you think they print on the printing press? This is an actual blood libel. This is a drawing of a Jew bleeding a Christian child, putting his blood in a container to use to bake matzah for the Jewish holiday of Passover, the Christian holiday of Easter. This was a common theme that would begin anti-Semitic purges over the Easter holiday. Jews dreaded Easter because they were accused of killing Jesus, and then this blood libel became part of that. So I hang this just to remind me of those days, and then if we want to switch from there, we can go to a current day manifestation. This is a Schutzpass signed by Raoul Wallenberg. Raoul Wallenberg was sent by the Swedish government to try to save Jews in Hungary in 1944, when the Hungarian government was complicit with the Nazis in Germany and was sending Jews to their death in Auschwitz. But if you got a Schutzpass signed by Wallenberg, your life could be saved. And this is one of the rare Schutzpasses that has survived. And this is the photograph of the woman who lived for many, many years because of the great and very courageous work of Wallenberg. Wallenberg was then captured by the Russians at the end of the war and disappeared, and was apparently killed by Stalin and the Soviet Union. Nobody has yet learned the true course of his life and death under the Stalinist regime. But this is a Schutzpass to remind me of the Holocaust. Moving back, this is a great drawing by a prominent artist, Theodor Herzl, one of my heroes, and signed by Herzl during his lifetime. He was the founder of political Zionism, and he wrote a book, which I have a copy of, called The Jewish State, in which he outlined how Israel would be created. And he said that he thinks in 50 years it will be a state, and it was 50 years later, in 1948, that Israel was established as a state. Among my other heroes have always been Winston Churchill. This is an original photograph by Karsh, a famous photograph of Winston Churchill. This is obviously Albert Einstein, done by Warhol. This is my collection of baseballs. I collect signed baseballs. I have great signed baseballs from so many people, people who've pitched perfect games and no-hitters, and I have signed baseball of all the Brooklyn Dodgers, all the New York Yankees, etc. So that's a very important part. Obviously, Abraham Lincoln has often been my hero for many years, and in a minute I'll show you some more pictures of Abraham Lincoln. A couple of newspaper headlines that you might be interested in. This is the Hebrew paper that signified the establishment of the State of Israel. Arises today the nation of Israel. And this is the Declaration of Independence of Israel when it was first established. And I scotch-taped on top of that a recent letter I got from the current president of Israel congratulating me for my 50th book. On top of that is a picture called The Face of Evil. And this is a photograph of Goebbels, the chief propagandist of Nazi Germany. And this was early in the Nazi regime in the early 1930s. And what happened is he was being photographed by a very prominent photographer. And then suddenly one of his assistants said, "The photographer who just photographed you," name was Eisenstadt, "is Jewish." And suddenly you get that look on Goebbels' face. When I was a kid, we used to sing a song about Goebbels. Let's see if I can remember it. Hitler, he only had one ball. Goering had two, but oh so small. Himmler had something similar. And Goebbels had no balls at all. So that's Goebbels, and I can't tell you whether the song is true or not, but I think of the song when I see the picture. Let's move now to my hallway, where I have some of my most important, from my point of view, possessions. I'm a great American patriot. I love America. I love American history, and so the appropriate place to start American history, obviously, is the Declaration of Independence. This is an early original, obviously not the original. The original has disintegrated. It's in Washington, D.C., but Congress authorized a printer to print several copies from the original, and this is one of those, which I have long sought after and finally was able to obtain a copy some years ago. This is a letter written by James Madison, the father of our Constitution, signed by him. And it's interesting because it's about autograph collecting and he sent it to a person who was one of the first collectors of presidential autographs, and you'll see I have a collection of presidential autographs. This is a letter, actually a letter about prosecution of people who were cheating on commerce, signed by the Secretary of the Treasury, a man named Alexander Hamilton. And this is an original Alexander Hamilton letter. This is interesting. So it's signed by George Washington. It's an original signature by George Washington. And it says, George Washington, President. But it's dated 1788. It's 2 years before he was president. Why is he signing things president? Because it wasn't president of the United States, it was president of the Society of Cincinnatus, which was a very important political organization that included many prominent politicians. This is one of my real treasures. My son and I found this in a bookstore in New York. It's a handwritten long letter by Thomas Jefferson about the First Amendment and freedom of speech and freedom of religion, and it has 3 Thomas Jefferson autographs. Thomas Jefferson on the top, Thomas Jefferson on the bottom, and then Thomas Jefferson for the Free Frank This is the original envelope. It was sold to the bookstore a week before I bought it by the family to which he sent this, Elijah Boardman, New Milford, Connecticut, and this is the original envelope.
Why don't you explain to them what a free franc is?
Well, the free franc is Presidents of the United States to this day don't have to pay postage as long as you put your signature, which is worth more than all the stamps in the world, practically. But if you put your signature on the letter, you get free postage, and that started with the beginning of America. This is a very important personal pardon by Abraham Lincoln of several Confederates who wanted to be pardoned as a condition of helping to join the Union Army and turn the war around, and Lincoln signed this. This is quite historic. This is Abraham Lincoln as president. This is a handwritten brief by Abraham Lincoln when he was a young lawyer, age 40 or so, and he wrote the brief and signed it in the name of his law firm, Post and Lincoln, and Lincoln in his signature appears several times in this brief, an actual brief. Okay, this is a very interesting photograph. This is a photograph done by a great photographer named Stieglitz, and it's called Steerage, and it shows a boat full of immigrants, and the poor people are on the bottom, the steerage, and the rich people with the fancy hats are on the top. And Picasso said this was the most important photograph in the beginning of the 20th century, and a kind of established realism in photography. So it's been very important to me. Now we're going to go to a room that most people don't take you to when they show you their treasures. But this is the guest bathroom, where I have, come in and you'll see it, autographs of every single president of the United States, from Washington to Biden. Two are not hung, but they're John Adams and Thomas Jefferson. I'll hang them up at some point. But this has every single president, the last few signed to me personally. This is a letter from Barack Obama. Sorry I missed your party, my birthday party. Conflicting obligations. We hope you have a great celebration and that you have many more years of advocacy, mischief, and great fun. Warmest regards, Barack. And this is be very different. This is one from Donald Trump. Alan, you are great. I have one from most of the current recent presidents, Bill Clinton, George W. Bush. But there are some very interesting other signatures in here. This one's interesting. This is a letter from Sigmund Freud to his nephew, Edward Bernays, the founder of I don't know what you call it, personal presentations to the press relations. And it's signed, interestingly enough, with much love, your Uncle Freud. Not Sigmund, not Siggy, not Sig, your Uncle Freud. This is a letter from Theodor Herzl to his daughter, a postcard, signed Papa. These are letters from two of my favorite philosophers, Bentham and Mill. And this is a fascinating letter. This is a letter in German from from Albert Einstein, in German, in which he says, anti-Semitism will never go away. It's a terrible thing. It's really the problem, the sickness of the anti-Semite, not the problem for Jews, as long as they don't hurt us. As long as they don't hurt us, he says. And this is written in 1944, after the Holocaust was nearly complete. Perhaps already 4 or 5 million Jews had been murdered. Now, did Einstein not know that? Or is it just that he wasn't relating the point? I don't know. This is another letter, another sign by Einstein with a formula. I've been trying to find out what the formula is, but so far none of my physics friends got it. Maybe it's really a major innovation that we still have yet to understand. This is a letter of admission to the impeachment, the first presidential impeachment in American history of Andrew Johnson, and that was the ticket for admission. I also have tickets for admission to the most recent impeachments because I was there. This is a letter from David Ben-Gurion talking about the importance of respecting religious freedom. Yes, Israel is a Jewish state, but the rights of all people who practice all and no religion must be recognized. This is an interesting letter from Justice Scalia to me. I love the ending. You're not as nasty a guy as my right-wing friends believe. Warm regards. But it's also about the 2000 election. I had written a book very critical of Scalia, and we started an exchange of information. He ends it, even if you think I was wrong, considering the severe time constraints, the pressure to come out with a near unanimous opinion, and the fact that I did not determine my vote in that case, you should cut me some slack. As for the stay, I think I can persuade you it was proper. We will talk about it sometime, as you say, before senility. Unfortunately, we never got to talk about it. Although I met with him several times before he died, we never had another substantive conversation. So this letter basically reflects the last conversations that we had. This is me with Golda Meir. These are other letters from other prominent people. So that's it for my, if you ever come to my house and people have gone to the bathroom and haven't come out for a half an hour because there's so many interesting things there. In addition to documents and photographs, I have a lot of what in Yiddish are called tchotchkes. This is one interesting one. This is a carved German anti-Semitic sculpture, essentially, of a Jew with a long hook nose. And if you open the back of it, really quite a piece of art. If you open the back of it, it has a Christian child who's being kidnapped by the long-nosed Jew and obviously taken for his blood. And this is done just in the probably 1920s, and so we've had anti-Semitism for a long time.
Remember how that opens up also.
I don't remember.
This comes out.
Oh yeah.
That comes out.
Yeah. There's a lot of stuff,
It's a pipe.
It's a pipe.
It's a pipe that you can smoke also.
Yeah. Well, if you're going to be an anti-Semite, you might as well make something that's useful. I also love to collect scrimshaw. This is the mouth of whale, the teeth from whales that were captured. These are all very old, so they're not in violation of any rules involving whaling. They all come from the 19th century, some from the 18th century. My son made me one for my, I can't remember, 75th birthday maybe. Justice shall you pursue, with a picture of me on a ancient mammoth ivory, 25,000 years old. So thank you, Elon, for that.
Sure.
Wonderful picture.
This one's kind of interesting.
Yeah, this is typical, a beer stein made in Germany, again in the 1910s and 1920s, all filled with anti-Semitic symbols. This is a long-nosed Jew pickpocketing a righteous Christian who is lying on the floor. They're all, every scene is an anti-Semitic scene. So, nobody should ever have been surprised that anti-Semitism reared its ugly head in France during the Dreyfus affair and in Germany, obviously, during the Holocaust. One of the letters I didn't show you in my guest bathroom was a letter from Dreyfus to Emile Zola's widow, explaining that he couldn't come to the memorial service for Dreyfus couldn't come to the memorial service for Zola because it would have been too disruptive. So he apologizes for not coming to that service. So these are essentially my treasures. There are many, many other things, small things. Here's one that would be interesting to some people. This is a Chanukah, and there are many, many of those, but this portrays a Jewish woman, Judith, in the Bible, cutting off the head of an enemy. You usually don't see those kinds of violent themes associated with Jewish ritual or tradition, and this had that, and so I wanted to make it part of my collection, just as a memory of the diversity of Jewish experiences. This is very interesting. Let me show you this. This is really interesting. This is called a Murano cup, and it was a chalice that was shown by Jews who had converted to Christianity during the Inquisition. So when you go to somebody's house and you see this, there's nothing Jewish about it at all until you open it up. And when you open it up, it has all the things necessary for performing Jewish ritual, including a Megillah of Esther, where hidden in this is an entire book of the Bible. And so the alleged Christian could continue to fool everybody into thinking he was a Christian and practice Judaism secretly. And if you open up the bottom of it, you have to do it in a certain way, and it's not easy to do, but hey, I got to do it. You get Sabbath candles, you get Hanukkah candles, and you get all the Jewish symbols that are now hidden from view. So it's an important memory of a time when Jews had to hide who they really were. Hopefully that time is gone forever. So essentially, that's my home. Lots and lots of books that are important to me. As I said, Theodor Herzl's The Jewish State. I have an original copy of Alexander Hamilton's defense of his adultery that probably cost him the presidency and indirectly may have led to his death in the duel. Lots of American history, lots of Civil War history, lots of Jewish history, and I like to surround myself with beautiful things and with historically significant items, and it always puts me in mind of the role I would like to continue to play in the world, the biblical admonition, tzedek, tzedek, tirdof, justice, justice, must you actively pursue. So most of these things stand for some type of justice, and I hope I can live up to all the items that surround myself. So write me about them. If there's anything else you'd like to see or any questions you have about any of these items, I'm happy to answer them either personally or on the show if they're deserving of widespread discussion. So enjoy. And for those of you who celebrate Passover, Chag Sameach, Happy Passover. For those of you who celebrate Easter, may you have a meaningful Easter, a meaningful Ramadan, or just a meaningful weekend. And see you next week.